Ryan, did you already start the session? Yes.
Yes, we already started the session. We're just gonna wait a few minutes until everyone can connect, and then we can start it.
Okay, great.
So we already have participants joining us as we speak. We're gonna just give it 2 minutes from now.
Ryan, I got those rabbit's ears. What do you think about them? Am I sexy with them?
I think it suits you, man. Suits you.
I got them when I started my renewal of my magazine.
I would say good choice. Good choice of magazines.
Sometimes when I put them on in the clinic, and the children think that they are happy, and the dad say, "Oh, why do you have those stupid hairs on your head?" I said, "I got them with my magazine," and they loved it. The children, of course, don't understand, but they find it cute.
That's when you know the turning point for every boy in his life.
Yes. Yes, and if the child also loves, this means, oh, you're early.
All right, good. So it's 7:32. I think we're ready to start. So welcome everyone. Just before I start by introducing the speaker and the objective of this session, just a little housekeeping here. If anyone here is not very familiar with Zoom, I guess probably everyone is, but just in case, first of all, we want to make this session as interactive as possible. And Jeroen is here. He's very happy to respond to any question that you have at any time. So of course you have few options here. First of all, you can send your question in the Q&A box or in the chat room. And if you wish to speak with Jeroen, then you can just raise your hand and I can unmute you or make you as a co-host so that you can ask your question directly to Jeroen by speaking to him rather than typing the question in. All right, so with that in mind, I can start. I will start by introducing our speaker for today, Dr. Jeroen Taverniers, based in, actually remind me, what is it called, the area, Jeroen? That I've been.
It's Haute-Savoie. It's in Alpes in France.
Right.
The city is La Roche-sur-Foron. It's a beautiful medieval city. You're welcome to visit if you want.
It is a beautiful city, especially if you like fondue and French sausages. It's a really cute area. So Jeroen has been practicing. He started his career actually as a GP, and he's practiced as a GP for 12 years before creating his private practice 6 years ago. And this is when this was his turning point when he started to become an exclusive orthodontist. He's been using dental monitoring for 5 years now. So a true pioneer in that area. He's been one of the first users around the world in Europe. 4 years ago, actually, also, Jeroen, this is very interesting. He started setting up his in-house lab and started making his own homemade aligners. And a year ago, he turned into 100% homemade aligners, which is a very interesting experience. I guess many people would have some question about that, Jeroen, maybe later. So for the session of tonight, Jeroen will aim to do two main things. The first one is, of course, give you as many practical tips for implementing dental monitoring and how to optimize the workflow. And the second axis of that conversation will be how to work with your staff and how to delegate effectively. So for that, he will show a lot of decision trees and the logic behind building his decision trees. So with that in mind, Jeroen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ryan. Indeed, we set up a lot of decision trees in all the practice for the secretaries, for the dental assistants, for the dental monitoring coordinator, for the practitioners, for the treatment plans, for the lab, of course. And this is very important because since we create our own aligners in our practice, this means we have to increase the level of control and the level of organization to be sure that we don't produce aligners for nothing, to throw them away. That would be stupid, and that would be a loss of money and time for the team. And I want to keep the morale high. So I don't want them to waste their time, and I want to be in control of everything. Actually, I don't want to be in control myself, but I want my team to be as much as possible in control of everything what's happening in the patient mouth. And this is probably what we all want as orthodontists. And for me, control is also about organization, because I cannot control everything myself. Because remember that too much information kills the information. It's like someone always speaking without stopping. And it's important to sort what's important in his speech and what's not important. Of course, everyone is important, every patient is important, but is every information about that patient that important? For example, if that patient is going to his grandma next week and he cannot change his aligners, or he forgot them, he lost his elastics for his bands and braces, is that so important that you as a practitioner, you have to tell your patient what to do? Probably not. Probably this can be treated by the secretary, because this is quite a standard situation. We don't have to stop what we are doing to consider this information. Nowadays, the most difficult part of our lives, of our job, but also of our lives, is not how to get the information. We have a lot of information. We have more information on Wikipedia than any researcher could have 1 century ago. The most difficult part of our lives and jobs is how to sort the information and say, this information is important for me and this is not important for me. I only want to know the important information in my job. So question is, who will sort the information? How will you not die on the wave of information? Is it the practitioner, the doctor? But if the doctor sorts all the information, there's not really use of sorting it, because you will be receiving all the information all the time, and it will take you a lot of energy, and especially it will use your neurons a lot. Is it a team member? Yes, that's possible. A team member could sort the information for you and give you the important information. But now the team member has to know what is the important information for you. For example, there are 3 orthodontists in the practice, and the important information for me is not exactly the same as for Estelle or as for Mathilde. So we designed our own decisional trees, and I don't want to be informed for such or such information what's relevant for them. This depends on your philosophy of treatment plans. But the team member will also receive a lot of information, and the more information the team member receives, the more difficult it will be for him or for her to sort all this. So it's very useful that all this information is treated before the team member by a computer program. This is Emmanuel Macron. It's a good guy. He's the president of France, which is a good country where I live in. I'm not French, but it's a good country. Do you think that this guy is informed every time I have to pay taxes? No, this is not relevant for him. He doesn't have to know when I pay taxes, because a lot of people can tweet that for him. All tax collectors will manage that I will pay my taxes. So this is not an important information for the president. But knowing what this guy has for breakfast this morning is probably important for Emmanuel Macron, because this guy, Mr. Putin, is important for him because depending on his choices, this will affect the politics and the strategy, military strategy of France and so on. So it's more important that Emmanuel Macron knows about every single detail about Putin than on a global scale what I do myself. So here's a team that manages the less important information, and so he has some time and energy and neural selectivity to manage the important information about international politics. Let's speak a little bit about management, about the principle of subsidiarity. What is the principle of subsidiarity? It's often confused with delegation. It consists in considering that all responsibility must be assumed by the level directly confronted with the problem to be solved, and the higher levels only intervening if the response to be given exceeds the capacity of the level evoked. So question is, the management in an orthodontic practice is like a pyramid, like a triangle. Quite often the practitioner is on the top because he makes the clinical decisions, but he cannot treat all the information. So all the levels below or above, considered how you treat the triangle, all the levels above the practitioner, above the dentist, have to manage all the information what they can manage. So question is, for every team member is, can I solve this problem? Yes. Then solve that problem and just solve it, which means solve the problem and don't tell me that you have solved it. Every team member is already supposed to do his job. My team members are not like dogs. They don't need a reward everything they did something well. I congratulate them, of course, if they do a good job, but not every single time. I don't have to congratulate them 500 times per day. So they solve the problem and they don't have to report it to me. They only have to report to the level above, which may be me or not, depending on the level of the team member. They only report to the level above if they cannot solve the problem. This is the basics of my organization in practice, which works quite well, and which I advise you to set up if you use dental monitoring, which we are probably using or about to use if you're listening to this webinar. It's reducing the quantity of information for the next level. So what are the levels we have in the practice and what's the job of each level? With dental monitoring, we have the most powerful artificial intelligence for dentistry in the world. I will say that again because that's very important. Dental monitoring nowadays has the most powerful artificial intelligence in the world. Why is that? Because the power of the artificial intelligence is all about how you feed it. You feed it with data. And nowadays, dental monitoring has the largest database of teeth pictures in the world. Ryan, do you have an idea how many pictures you have, you guys at the dental monitoring?
Yes, it's today more than 1.5 billion.
That's huge. So with this powerful artificial intelligence, we can have a good detection of the problems or what's going wrong or what's going well. So the job of the artificial intelligence is doing the detection. This is very important because we can really rely on the artificial intelligence. The efficiency is very, very high. It's never 100%, but I think it's something like 99.99999%. So this means don't check the pictures yourself. You don't have to, because the artificial intelligence is good enough to detect for you. Don't control what's already controlled. Next level are the protocols you set up in the dashboard on dental monitoring. Those protocols will sort the information. What's important for you, what's not important for you. And once again, what's important for me may not be considered important for you or for another orthodontist. Sorry. Then there is the dental monitoring coordinator, which is a dental assistant, which has a special training in our practice. She is highly trained in dental monitoring, and she applies the decisional trees, starting from the information that was given by the dental monitoring protocols. If the situation cannot be solved by the coordinator, by the decisional trees, this means this is a very special situation. The coordinator will ask to my dental assistant, because I work with 2 other dental assistants. We work in a little group of 3 people. And the coordinator is not part of my dental assistant, which is others. She could be or she could not be. In my case, she's not, because she has a lot of responsibilities in my practice. She will ask to my dental assistant, do you have the answer to my question? For example, this patient didn't scan for 1 month. Do you have an idea why? And that dental assistant works with me all the time. She spends all her day with me, poor little girl, and she knows my patients very well because she speaks a lot with them. And she probably knows that this patient, for example, is in hospital, which my coordinator may not know, but my dental assistant may know that. So this is the next level. And the dental assistant will treat the special cases. If the dental assistant has no answer to these questions, she will ask the doctor, which is me in this case, and I will take clinical decisions based on this special patient in this special situation, which was not programmed in the decisional trees, so special it was. And since we are three orthodontists, if I have very specific questions like tricky situations which I don't understand, or I don't know what to do, or what's the best question, we have some meetings which are supposed to be every week, but actually it's every 2 weeks. But if I have special questions on clinical situation, I can ask them. And if you work alone in your practice, I advise you to find a friend which is also an orthodontist to ask him, what can I do in this or this special case? So let's see each step in detail. The artificial intelligence is in charge of the detection. At every step, I asked myself, is this reliable? How can I improve it? How can I control that things are not going weird? And how can I standardize? Standardization is very important for me because I consider that every clinical situation, every patient, and every treatment is different, of course, but I want to standardize as much as possible. For example, if the patient has 3 months of treatment left and he's growing, has 1 millimeter of class 2, you will probably ask him to wear some class 2 elastics. If I ask you the same question tomorrow, you will ask him to wear class 2 elastics. If I ask you the question 1 day later, you will ask for class 2 elastics. So if you take always the same decision, you don't have to consider it yourself. You can ask a lower level or a higher level to treat it. What's the reliability of the artificial intelligence? Actually, the artificial intelligence, I'm sorry to say that, Ryan, stop the recording, please, but the artificial intelligence is better than me. Why is that? Because quite often, when the patient comes to the dental chair, I check his teeth with the aligner, for example, and I say, okay, there is no unseat. Everything fits well in the aligner. I say everything's perfect. And then there is that stupid dental assistant who says, no, Jeroen, there are 3 noticeable unseats on teeth 1, 7, 3, 1, and 3, 2. Okay, and I just missed them, but the artificial intelligence didn't miss them. So I'm looking now very stupid to my patient, but the artificial intelligence sees the things better than I do. Why is that? That's because when those guys from Dental Monitoring program the artificial intelligence, they had pictures on screens that were like my television screen, like 25 inches or something like that. So a tooth is 15 centimeters high on that screen, and they can see every single pixel, every single detail on that tooth, which I will probably not see, especially if the patient doesn't open that much, if it's on a lower molar, if the tongue is over it, if it's the 100th patient of the day, and if it's Wednesday afternoon. So the artificial intelligence is more reliable than I am. Don't ask why they put artificial intelligence in missiles, because the artificial intelligence is better, faster, and more reliable than human brains. So how can I improve the artificial intelligence? From my point of view, my team and myself, we can ask the patient to go his scans with very good quality, to go as much as possible to the left, to the upper, to the lower, and to the right. Because in this case, the artificial intelligence will see all the teeth very good, and the artificial intelligence can only detect teeth that it can see. And how much teeth the artificial intelligence can see is only due to the speech of your team in the beginning, how you tell the patient to do. If the patient does only a very little bit, 5 degrees to the left, this is not sufficient to see all the molars. So tell him how to do the scans. My team spends 30 minutes with the patient to explain dental monitoring. 30 minutes, it's way above the average time practices spends with the patient to explain dental monitoring. But since we spend a lot of time with them to explain them how to do the scans, we have very good pictures and you have a lot of detection. The control is given by the artificial intelligence. It will self-control the quality of the scan, and if the scan is not good, it will reject the scan. And the standardization is now very high, especially with the ScanBox Pro. The level of standardization of reproducibility of the scans is very high. So what about the protocols? Is it reliable? Yes, the protocols are very reliable because protocols are the protocols you set up on the dashboard on dental monitoring. It's 100% reliable because it's a computer program. So if you ask him to tell you when there is a noticeable unseat, it will tell you in 100% of the cases. So until now, the level of trust you can have in the information is extremely high. How can you improve the protocols? You have to review them on a regular basis. You will have to adapt them. I review my protocols about once a month or once every 2 months. Actually, I don't do it myself. It's my dental monitoring coordinator who does it for me, but we have discussions about the protocols on a quite regular basis. How can you control the protocols? This can be done by your implementation specialist, which comes to your practice or not, or does it from his or her computer, and will check your protocols. He will not tell you how to set up your protocols because your protocols will depend on how you work, but they will detect the most stupid things you put in your protocol. Sometimes even myself or my coordinator, we think, oh, this is a very, very good idea, but it's just stupid. And the implementation specialist job is to check the protocol and say, no, this is stupid. Don't do that, because I had 10 dentists doing that and they said it wasn't good. What about the dental monitoring coordinator? Once again, I advise you to ask a team member to be the coordinator of dental monitoring. And I highly advise you to let this team member have a lot of time to manage the monitoring. My coordinator has on Monday about 2.5 hours to manage the dashboard. She works from home on Monday. On Tuesday, she has 1 hour. Wednesday, 1 hour. Thursday is 2 to 3 hours. This is the management of the dashboard, but also setting up the decisional trays, adapting the protocols, training the team, blah, blah, blah. And on Friday, I have a dental assistant on the evening managing the dashboard for 1.5 hours. So this is plenty of time for 600 patients that we are monitoring in full time. Well, it's about 7 hours, which is quite much. But I give them this time because it's very important for me to give them the time, because in this case, they will be reliable and there will be less mistakes than if they are in a hurry. How can you control the dental monitoring coordinator? Sometimes I check the dashboard myself without the coordinator knowing it. And sometimes I check the messages that the patient sends and how she replies. And in this way, I control afterwards what were the decisions that she applied, how she answered to the patients, and I think, does it correspond to what I would have told the patient? And the answer is supposed to be yes. How can you standardize the decisions of the dental monitoring coordinator? That's very easy. You just have to create decisional trees with her. And this must be a teamwork. This is very important. Create the decisional trees. Doctors, please create them with your coordinator. Don't create them in your garage and then ask your coordinator to apply them, because your coordinator will not understand them. This is really a teamwork. You have to sit down, take some time. I think we took a whole day to create our first decisional trees. Because she had good ideas. It's not because she didn't study for orthodontics that she's stupid. She's quite clever. And she had very good ideas on the decisional trees, and some of them were way better than mine. So it's important to do this as a teamwork, because she will be your fingers on the keyboard, and she will be your voice when she will answer the messages. So she has to fully understand the decision trees. Dental assistant. The dental assistant should be also very reliable, and she's the person who knows me best, after my wife and after my mother, of course. But on a professional point of view, my dental assistant is the person who knows me the best, because she spends all the working day with me, and she sees every single decision I take. And if she doesn't agree or if she doesn't understand, she asks me, Jeroen, why did you ask the patient to do that or that or that? And sometimes I just made a mistake, so that's a good idea that she asks me, so I can correct myself. And sometimes it's because I applied a new process, and I can explain to her, okay, in this special case, usually I ask the patient to wear elastics, but this patient has a genetic problem and he doesn't grow anymore because he took hormones and blah, 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 blah. So elastics won't work, and I don't want to pull his lower incisors out of the gum. So in this special case, I ask him not to wear rubber bands. Yeah. So if you want your dental assistant to be highly reliable, you have to train her and explain the treatment plans and the decisions you take. I say the dental assistant can super adapt the decision to that special patient, because she knows the patient, she knows that he has a genetic disorder and that he can't wear rubber bands. This is an example. How can you improve your dental assistant? Please train the dental assistant as much as possible. Explain what you are doing, and I prepare my reports for the patients with the dental assistant. When I explain the treatment plan, the dental assistant is in the room with myself, so she knows how I explain, what words I employ, and why I explain this first, and then that point, and then that point. So she exactly knows how my brain works. Poor girl. She knows how my brain works and how to explain to the patient in the same way as I would have explained it. She can support the situation. And control, once again, sometimes I control the decisions she takes for me. And standardization, how can you standardize the decisions of the dental assistant? Sometimes ask yourself to the dental assistant, what would you have done in this case? Actually, this is also a good trick when you don't know what to answer to the patient. Is if he asks a difficult question, ask your dental assistant, what would you answer? And then you have a few minutes to think about what you would have answered. The practitioner, so that's your doctor. How can you be reliable? Learn, train yourself, and learn with your mistakes. When you made the mistakes, don't put it under the carpet and forget it. No, no, no. If you made the mistakes, I made a lot of mistakes, and I studied as much as possible my mistake to try to understand what was happening, where I did the mistake, and how I could have solved it next time. But don't reinvent the wheel for every patient. If you have a car, you need 4 wheels, and you will make a design for the first wheel. You will say, okay, it will be round. That's the best shape for wheel. Okay, you don't have to think this again 4 times. Once you understood that the best shape for a wheel is round, say, okay, I did it for the first patient. This is a very standard situation. There will be no other situations where this could be wrong. So every single wheel I will create now will be round. And if at one moment you say, okay, I did a mistake, I created a round wheel, but this one should be square. Okay, go back to the decisional trees and say, okay, 99.999% of the situations it should be round, but in this special situation with genetic disorders, okay, it should be square. And in this way, you will learn a lot. How can you improve yourself? Learn, train yourself, read books, think a lot. Your brain is the best tool to improve yourself. And how can you control what you are doing? When the treatment is finished, sometimes I review the treatment, not every time, but with tricky treatments or treatments that I consider that went wrong, that took too long, or that didn't finish as I wanted, or that were very short. On the contrary, that went very good. I say, okay, what did I do a special action in this treatment? And why is it that it worked very good? Or why is it that it worked very bad? Can I reproduce it on other patients, or can I not reproduce this mistake on other patients? And standardization for the treatment plans. When I ask for setup to my lab technician, I have a lot of sentences that are pre-programmed in my brain, and I have 40 or 50 of them, and I only use those because I know that she understands them. I know that this is clear, that the message will be well understood, not too much, not too less in the message. All the words are accurate, and this is a good way to standardize the treatment plans. So please do that. You don't have to reinvent all the treatment plans. Don't forget that 64% of the patients are class 2, division 1, I think. So most of your treatment plans will be always the same. Speak with the team, with ortho doctors about tricky clinical situations. Make this reliable, and asking the team, asking other doctors, this will perhaps not always bring you the best solution, but at least avoid the most stupid decisions. Improve the team, take some time, discuss about the case afterwards. Did it work, didn't it work? Control the team, read books, train yourself, and once again, standardize the treatment plans. The more you and the team are speaking the same language, the easier it will be for all of you to understand each other and to speak the same language. I put down here the way I control the reliability, how I improve, how I control, and how I standardize each step. You can take a screenshot from this, or you can also contact Ryan or Ryan from Dental Monitoring if you want the screenshot of this one. So to summarize this part of the presentation, you have lots of information, and the idea is tweet. Each level tweets the information. So you as a doctor, you should have less than 1% of information you should have to tweet every week, which means I have 600 patients in monitoring. I consider that I should answer maximum 6 questions per week. Doesn't mean if there are 10 questions I don't answer, but if there are more than 6 questions, I consider that my protocols, my procedures are not efficient enough. You will be efficient when you will understand how the tool works, which take a little bit of time, but the faster and the stronger you start, the more patience you will have from the beginning, the faster you will go. And your implementation specialists and all the dental monitoring teams will be happy to support you with this. And all the team should be trained about monitoring. Even my secretaries, my lab technicians knows what dental monitoring is, how it works. They have their own decisional trees. My secretaries can answer to easy questions, easy messages on the chat. They know how it works. They don't know everything in detail. This depends on the level where they are, but all of them knows what monitoring is and how it's used, and to do some simple tasks. And before you have changed your decisional trees at least 10 times, this means that you are probably not the best organization yet. Don't forget that my way of working is not the same as your way of working, and that my decisional trees are probably not adapted to your work. So dental monitoring will be happy to provide you with default decisional trees, which are pretty good, I think. Ryan has more information than me about that, but don't hesitate to change it. Ryan, could you discuss a few seconds about the standard decisional trees you guys from Dental Monitoring are providing?
So, sorry, can you repeat again the question?
Can you speak a little bit about the decisional trees you are providing, you guys from Dental Monitoring, the decisional trees by default that you suggest to the Dental Monitoring coordinator?
Yes, correct. So this is the implementation specialist. They have a set of standardized decision trees. And so everyone that needs that, you can contact your implementation specialist, and she'd be happy to help you with that.
This is very different from the protocols. I don't speak about the protocols that you set up in the dashboard. The decisional tree is, for example.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yes, I have a noticeable unseat on 5 teeth what do I do? Do I ask the patient to do a smart STL? Do I ask him to finish his sequence or whatever? This is a decisional trees. That is the level above the protocols.
Yeah, of course. Aside from the protocols, also we have standard decision trees. So and this is where the implementation specialist also as well can intervene. Aside from the protocols, there's also this what you're talking about.
Yes, plus that's pretty good because the implementation specialist sees a lot of practices around your area, and they won't tell, okay, your neighbor is using that decision tree because that's his secret. He doesn't have to share this, but he will be able to advise you to better do this or better not to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And we both know that if you put like 10 practices in one room and ask him to come up with a decision tree, you will have 10 different results. So it's also hard to have a standard one, but we have like standard, very basic ones.
Oh, with 10 dentists, you will probably even have like 14 different decision trees.
Yes, exactly.
And thank you, Wayne. And you will be efficient when your advice is needed in less than 1% of the cases per week, which means 500 patients followed up with monitoring. You should answer maximum 5 questions. Otherwise, it's not that you're not doing your job well, but this means there is according to me, from my point of view, you can improve the organization of your practice. You can treat more the higher levels. So this is organization. Be reliable and reproducible. Don't forget that your team members may change during your career. In France, I think the average lifetime of a dental assistant in a practice, I think it's 2.5 years, which means my career is about, let's say, 40 years. And my dental assistant will change about 18 times. So I don't want to train my dental assistant 18 times on the same thing, because my colleagues may change, but I set up processes and the processes can only be improved. Every time a colleague leaves the practice, which happens quite often, sadly, even in my practice, we will have to retrain them, but we will give the basic training to them, and we will give like the Bible of processes to them. And they learn them at home. They have to do a lot of homework, and the processes can only be improved. You don't have to recreate the processes every time a team member changes. Rely on processes and not on team members. Don't rely on, yeah, don't worry, we know how to do this. Yes, but perhaps one day you will leave the practice. You will be sick, you will be pregnant, you will be in hospital. Before we started with the webinar, we were talking with Ryan, and I said, I'm not that often on the dashboard of dental monitoring because my coordinator is on the dashboard. So I don't have to be that much on the dashboard. And sometimes things changes on the dashboard and I discover it like 2 months afterwards. It's a bit tricky for me speaking for dental monitoring, which from my point of view, this is good because this means that I set up a good organization. I don't have to know how the engine of my car works. It just has to work. If I don't know how the engine is working, this means my car works perfectly. If I know every screw in the engine, this probably means that I have some problems with my car and that I have to put my fingers in the engine every day. So if you know too much about monitoring, I'm not telling you not to be interested by the dashboard, but if you have to go to the dashboard yourself every hour, this probably means that you have a problem in your organization and that the level which is above you, your dental assistant, the coordinator, or the protocols or whatever, isn't that efficient. I put a few examples of decisional trees. This is a very basic decisional trees to show you how I designed them. For example, my dental monitoring coordinator is not here. If I have a process how to manage that, it will be easy for us. But I could have no process for this particular situation. If I have a process, everybody knows how to react. We will post-date non-urgent tasks, create extra work hours if needed. For example, my dental assistant will be in charge of the monitoring. My coordinator was pregnant in the beginning of the year, so she wasn't there. But since we had the dental monitor, dental assistant, which was already highly trained, another one in dental monitoring. We knew how to manage this, and it was very easy for us to set up the replacement of the coordinator. This was easy because we already have a process for that. If we wouldn't have had a process, we would have panicked, and now we have double workload because we have one team member that's not here, which means the other team members has to work more or better or more efficient or whatever. And now we have to create a process on the go very quickly, because now we learned that she was pregnant and that she was not in the practice anymore, and we would have had to set up something especially for that. So this is double work. So if you panic, next time create a process, and next time it will be better. You won't have to panic. But if you have double workload, you will have to manage the stress and the unhappiness of the team and of yourself. So please create as much processes as possible, which are not stupid processes, which will never be used, but processes in situations that may happen. And you will understand that when those situations will happen, you will be very cool. I discussed one day with a guy who was piloting a helicopter from the army, and they have a lot of processes. When he gets shot at, when he was hit by a missile, when he has to take some soldiers from an enemy drop zone, and so on, blah, blah, blah. He has some processes. So he already knows what he has to do. He already knows what will be the best decisions in that situation, because those situations, if you are piloting a helicopter and you are 500 meters above the ground and you are hit by a missile, this is probably quite a stressful situation. So your mind will not be able to think clearly, and it's good to have a process to know how to react in this situation. In your practice, you will probably not receive a missile in your head or in your practice. I hope so. So you will have less stress, but you will have plenty of patients to manage. So it's very tiring for your neurons, for your brain, to think about new processes on the go. So please prepare the processes before. Another example is the air compressor doesn't work. What do? The dentist checks if there is a quick solution to apply. The dental assistant calls the repairman, describes the situation, and asks the repairman if there is something quick that she can do to repair the situation. And the secretary cancels the next appointments needing air for 1 hour upfront, because we consider that we will need some time to recover from the situation and to apply the quick solution. If a quick solution exists according to the repairman, we will set it up. Or sometimes there is no quick solution, the repairman has to come. If there is a quick solution, dental assistant will be able to continue the day as usual, and the secretary's job will be call the patient that you canceled a few minutes before and ask them to come at the end of the day. If the repairman has to come, then the secretary has to cancel all the other appointments which need compressed air until the repairman comes. And she will also give a call to the patients for the next day, for example, which are coming from a consultation that doesn't need air, pressurized air. And so we will save time in the next day to put those appointments that we canceled, to put them there. And the dentist should take advantage of the free time to buy another compressor. So this is a very basic process. This has nothing to do with treatment plans or clinical situations or patients or whatever. But in this situation, everybody knows what he has to do. There's no panic, there's no stress, and every team member has a color. You probably noticed that the dentist is in blue, the dental assistant is in brown, and the secretary is in purple. So it's very easy to understand what everybody has to do at which step and how we are organized. Another decisional tree about monitoring. This is an example. I made it quite basic. Ours in the practice is more detailed. But I'm not here to discuss about orthodontics or to discuss about the decisional tree. I'm more here to explain you how we set up the decision trees. For example, patient has no-go. No-go number one, the first no-go he has in his life. If he has a no-go, which is an noticeable unseat for us, for example, if this is a lower molar, patient uses class 2 elastics, and there is less than 1 millimeter of class 2 on that side, which means probably that the elastic is pulling on the aligner, which doesn't fit perfectly on the molar. So there is a space between the aligner and the molar, which creates an unseat on the molar. But if the class 2 is less than 1 millimeter, I consider that we could also stop with the elastics. So just ask the patient to stop and ignore the tooth. You understand that in this situation, which is very standard, the coordinator doesn't have to ask me in every single situation that's exactly the same. Does the patient have to stop with the class 2 elastics? No, this is an automatic decision. It's not automatic, it's human-based automatic decision, which means every time she will meet this situation, she will make the same decision. If there is an unseat on that tooth, whatever tooth it may be, molar, premolar, canine, incisor, whatever, if there is intrusion planned on the setup, just ignore that tooth. Why is that? Because if there is an unseat, this means that this tooth is more intruded as it is supposed to be. But if you will have to intrude it afterwards in the treatment plan, why panic? Because you're in advance of the treatment plan. There's no use to panic. You're even doing better as you were expecting. Probably because of stupid reason, but because of stupid reason, you are more clever than you are supposed to be. So this is a good situation. So don't cancel the sequence because you have too much intrusion, because you will do it in advance. If you have noticeable unseat on the upper lateral incisor, and it is not a finishing sequence, it's a basic sequence, just ignore tooth, because I consider, from my point of view, but once again, this is my point of view, you may not agree with that, I consider that I will treat the upper lateral incisor in a finishing sequence. Why is that? Because this happens quite often on lateral incisors, upper lateral incisors, and quite often if they are not symmetric, it's not that important for the aesthetics. And quite often the patient says, okay, it's not very symmetric on the upper lateral incisors, but I don't mind. I just want to stop. I don't want to go for 10 more aligners. So they are very happy with that. So I don't want to stop my sequence for something that the patient will ignore anyway. If it's a lower incisor or lower canine, I will check for collisions on that tooth. What is a collision? Collision is on the computer. When you have a close look, I give you a trick. If you have an unseat on a lower incisor or lower canine, and Ryan, I don't know if you know that. If you have an unseat, quite often you have a collision. Collision is on the computer, teeth may move one through the other, which is of course not possible in reality. And if you have a close look on the setups, whatever the system I checked 5, 6, 7 systems, I don't remember which ones, but quite often they have collisions and you are trying to press a tooth inside another one, which is not possible. And if this happens, the tooth that is pressed in the other one will intrude, because there's no way it will be able to go to the other tooth. They are not ghosts, they are tooth. So it will intrude, which will create an unseat. So quite often, if you have unseats on lower incisors or canines, you probably have a collision. Check your setup. My dental monitoring coordinator knows how to check the setups. If there is a collision, which I was supposed to detect when I checked the setup, but I didn't detect it, if there is a collision, I will replan a setup from the stage before. So if patient is wearing aligner number 27, I will reprogram a setup from stage 26, which was good because the unseat appeared on step number 27. So I will create a setup from stage 26, which worked. If there is no collision, I will just continue the sequence. So, but do not ignore the tooth. Because I want to check if this is corrected afterwards or not. If it's just a problem at that moment, or if the problem will continue afterwards. If I have noticeable unseat, and some stripping was planned, but was not done or was not done correctly, in this case, I will probably have to strip more. So in this case, with summon the patient, oh, sorry for the spelling mistake. I will have to summon the patient, and the coordinator writes on the file, strip 0.2 millimeter between 231 and 22. Or they write on the file, okay, in total you have to strip that much because you're stupid or you were tired, so you didn't strip. So the coordinator takes the decision to write this in the file according to the decisional tree which I created with her. So I took the decision to ask her to give me this instruction. And with doing this, when the patient comes to the practice, I know what's going on and what's the problem and how I can solve the problem. So I just have to strip. I don't have to reinvent the wheel once again and check, oh yes, I stripped. Probably I'm missing a little bit of stripping, so I will have to strip even more. Okay, let's take the stripping material. No. The dental assistant already knows in front of the appointment that we will have to do a stripping. Another question, if this is a no-go for the first time, how many teeth are on a noticeable unseats? Sorry, if it's 1, 2, 3 a noticeable unseats, we take no action. But if there are 4 or more teeth that don't adapt in the aligner, we will chat to the patient and ask what's going on. We will check with him that he is wearing the correct aligner and ask him to go to next aligner because perhaps something went wrong with that aligner. So we ask him to go to next step. For example, he's wearing aligner number 27. We ask him to go to aligner 28 and we ask him for a scan. And then depending on the result of the scan, we take some more decisions.
So maybe, Jeroen, sorry to interrupt, just here, it would be good maybe to explain to the participant the logic behind building decision trees and what are the steps that you take in a very simple way, because I know that this is a topic that interests everyone.
Yes, okay. Yes, thank you, Ryan. Indeed, my objective here is not to present my decision trees because you don't really need me for that. No, Dental Monitoring provides this. I would be happy to discuss with you about every detail if you want, but this is not the topic I want to speak about this evening. I want to tell you how you should set up your decision trees from my point of view. My organization is set up on processes, on protocols, as I told you, and my basic thinking is zombie-based learning. I consider my team like zombies. Probably you doctors already said, is there someone that has a brain in my team except myself? So, probably answer is no, but no, it's not no, but probably they don't have the same brain as you have. And there are no humans on earth that have the same brain that think on the same way. So how can a zombie set up a protocol or a decisional tree? You have inputs and outputs. Inputs is the information and output is the action you will apply to this situation. How do you choose between action 1 and action 2? This depends on a lot of things, may depend of other teeth. For example, collision. There is an unseat on the 4-2. It will depend on the situation of the movement of 4-3, what's going on here. Depends of the setup. So this means that your dental monitoring coordinator has to know how to access to your setups and how to read them and how to understand them and how to understand what's going on. Depends of the cooperation probably of the patient, because you will probably not take the same decision as if this is a cooperative or non-cooperative patient. Depends of the sequence. For example, you will probably not restart a new sequence if the patient is about to finish a sequence. If he has 50 aligners and he's wearing aligner number 47, you will probably not ask for smart STL or new intra-oral scan to start a new sequence. You will probably ask him just to finish a sequence and do a finishing. And depends of the number of aligner, you'll probably not react if this happens at aligner number 2 or aligner number 20. So those are criteria that enters in the how to take the decision between action 1 and action 2. If you have a situation where the information gives you, at the end of the day, the same action, action 1 or action 1. There's no difference between the actions you will take. There may be different reasons why you take this action or the same action, depending of this is non-cooperative patient. We ask him to rush to finish a sequence, whatever's happening. If he's about to finish a sequence, if he has only one aligner left, we will also ask him to finish the treatment. So the philosophy behind why I choose this action or this action is different, but at the end of the day, the action is the same. So in this case, philosophy is not interesting here. We only speak about actions. Remember that guy with his helicopter with the missile? He doesn't have to think, was it this missile or this missile? Okay, that's philosophy from this moment. The decision he will take will depend of, am I able to fly or not? So if it's the same decision, don't ask to consider information. Intention without action is useless. Write down only actions, not philosophy, not why you take this action or this action. This is not important for your team. This is important for you because you have to know why you take this or this decision, but your team has to have very basic protocols. It's like Vasarely, the painter, he painted white or black squares. It's white or black. It's not gray, or it's not perhaps white, or it's not, it depends, or no. It's white or black. The answer must be binary or trinary or quaternary, but it must be clear what you have to do. Example, the line is broken. This is an information given by the artificial intelligence about 100% reliability. If it's the first or second time, it's probably an accident. This is philosophy. Or the patient does something wrong when he removes his aligner. If it's the 10th time he breaks his aligner, probably the patient is doing something wrong. So if it's the first time, we remind the patient how to remove the aligner. This is automatically sent by the protocol of dental monitoring. This is something we set up on the dashboard. And if it's more than 3 times, we ask a dental assistant to check how the patient removed the aligner, and we create an appointment. This is the code for the appointment in the practice, adjust OR10AS, which is appointment to control OrthoForward, which is our system of aligners, for 10 minutes on the dental chair of dental assistant, and ask the dental assistant to check how the patient remove his aligners. So this is also philosophy. So what you have to do, action is create appointment, write on file, check removal of the aligner procedure. So next time the patient comes to the practice, the dental assistant, which will see the patient, doesn't even know why she has to check that, but she knows she has to check that. And why she has to check is not important for her. She just has to know what she has to do at that moment. This is checked by the DMC with the decisional tree. So to make it clear, decisional tree, input is aligner is broken, occurrence is more than 2, action is create appointment, and write on file, check removal of aligner procedure. This is a good decisional tree. Above, no, this is full of philosophy, but the decisional tree above helps you to create the one below. The key points from the decisional trees must be able to understandable by any zombie that works in your practice, even yourself. If you don't remember why you chose this, if you are tired or drunk or under drugs or whatever, you have to be able to understand simple decisions. The input, the information must be clear, must be basic, must be by binary, black or white, not perhaps. And the output must also be clear. The decisional trees must be updated on a regular basis and should cover minimum 95% of the situation. I would be happy if it would cover 100% of the situation. Remember that every time the guy who is above you does a better work, you will have less work. So the more you improve every step, less work there will be for less step. And the better the protocols will be, the less work there will be for the coordinator. The less work there will be for the coordinator, the less work there will be for the dental assistant, and the less work there will be for the practitioner. Now you have a new objective. It's to improve every step before you, so you will have less work and have more time to check my webinars. How can you prove this? I personally spend a lot of time to train my team. For my dental coordinator, I spend 1 full day setting up my decisional trees with her. And I spend 1 day training her on the decisional trees, presenting situations and checking that she understood the decisional trees. And she then spends 2 days on her own to set up the protocols according from the decisional trees. Now this will be way faster because don't forget I started dental monitoring almost from the beginning, where the protocols were way more basic and the teams for dental monitoring had less experience. They could help us less, but now they will be able to help you more. With the dental assistant, I also spend a lot of time with them. I train them for half a day for 3 months, every 3 months, sorry. So this is blocked in our schedule. I say, okay, I want to train you that day from this hour to this hour. I want no appointment, no call, no whatever in the middle of this training. This is training time, nothing else. We discuss hard case together. Every time I have some hard cases and I write down the treatment plans with her so she can understand what I'm doing. And when I'm recruiting a dental assistant, every time I say like Churchill, I have nothing to offer but blood, toilet, tears, and sweets. If you are okay, I will make a commando dental assistant from you, but you will have a lot of work. And the dental monitoring coordinator also spends half a day every 3 months to update the protocols. And she also has to spend time to train the team to understand, to explain why she shows this on the decisional trees and this and that, and on the protocols. This is an example from my schedule 3 weeks ago. And I compared it to my planning last year. Those are the times I have free in my week. Total free time in my working week was 5 hours and 20 minutes, and total meeting time was 2.5 hours, which means I spend a lot of time in meeting with my team because I want to train them to be very efficient. And if I have to compare to last year where we were less efficient, I didn't have 5 hours and 20 minutes free in my week. I only had 20 minutes, which means compared to last year, I have more free time. Free time where I can work on protocols, where I can answer my emails, where I can set up my webinars or whatever. However, I increase my activity from 30%. I have 30% more patients compared to last year. So this means the improvement of the organization, of the monitoring, of the training of my team saved me 5 more hours in my working week compared to last year, even if I have more patients.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just we have one question I think is important when we talk about decision trees. Someone is asking, where do you write down your decision trees? And the second question was, is it possible to put it in a DM app?
Okay, I write them down like everywhere. I always have a blank sheet with me where I write down the things I'm thinking about. And then usually when I write them down and a few hours later or next day, I review them and I say, okay, this was a good idea or this was not a good idea. And once I thought about this, I discussed with my coordinator, with the other orthodontics in my practice, with dental assistant, with the rest of my team, because they have good ideas, they're quite clever. And then once I wrote them down, I put them on the file, usually PowerPoint, because I master PowerPoint quite good. And then I give them to everybody. I present them in a meeting with all the team and say, okay, please hit me, criticize me, say bad things about me. And then I can correct the decisional trees. And once everybody agrees with it, or at least everybody understands it, I share it with everybody. And the person who has to tweet this decisional tree, for example, if it's something for the secretary, they have it on the front desk. It's glued on the table, so they cannot remove it, and they have always in front of their eyes. They don't have to look here or there in the emails or the computer or whatever. It has to be clearly visible by all the members of the team, that need the decisional trees. I don't put the decisional trees of the secretary in the office of my coordinator. She has no use of it. Ryan, does this answer the question?
Yes, I believe so. So Dr. Demling, if you think if you think that I answered the question, that's great. And if you need to follow up on this, please let me know. That's okay. Perfect. All right, great.
Yes, I will take time to answer another question if you have some more questions about that. So move it. How does the monitoring work? Monitoring is like a dam, but working on the country, because you put a little bit inside, but you have very good results. So what do you have to put in the factory to work? You will have to put some good tools. Good tools is a good artificial intelligence, which I said is very good from Dental Monitoring. They have the best one in the world. And you have to put good decisional trees. You have to put good communication methods. We use Google Sheets like a lot. I don't even know how many Google Sheets we have in the practice, probably like 25. But some of them were set up without me even knowing it, because I'm not concerned. If it's a Google Sheet between the lab and the secretaries and the coordinator, for example, I don't have even to understand how it works, because this is not my job. My job is that everything works fluent, that the organization is good, but I don't have to manage every single micro detail. And we set up a lot of Google Sheets because it's like Excel, for those who don't know it. It's free. It's on Google. You can access it from anywhere in the world. And one big advantage is that a lot of people at the same time may work on the same Google Sheet. I have a Google Sheet for appointments, for example. If I want to summon a patient, I write it down on a Google Sheet. And in real time, the secretary sees what kind of appointment for what patient. So they just give a call to the patient and say, okay, the doctor asked you to make an appointment at just OR10 GT as soon as possible, or in 3 weeks, or whatever. They don't know why I asked them to make an appointment, but they strictly apply what I'm asking them. 20 team members. As you have seen, I spend a lot of time training my team. This is very important. If you want them to think like your brain works, you will have to share some brain time with them. And you will also need some time. That's what I said. My team spends a lot of time on monitoring, about 6 to 7 hours a week, which is quite much, because I'm quite a psychopath on control. Usually it's not that much, but I have to give them time and not to put appointments in this time. They need to be quiet to be able to manage the monitoring as needed. And you also sadly have to put some money in it, because DentalMind is not free. It's a great tool, but not free. So you have to pay those guys. But you will earn a lot of time, a lot of chair time, which is very interesting, because this costs a lot of money. You'll be able to see more patients or go home earlier or whatever. And you will have a lot of patients' happiness and team's happiness. This is also very important, to provide happiness to the people around you. So create your action plan. You are now supposed to have all the tools to create the decisional trees. So just go on. Don't hesitate to write me emails or use WhatsApp. You can contact me on my phone. Please don't call me, but I'm very happy to answer all the WhatsApp you will send me. If I didn't answer in the 2 or 3 days, don't hesitate to ask me again on WhatsApp. Probably I went through that message and I forgot to answer, because usually I answer quite quickly. The teams of Dental Monitoring are here to help you. I'm not really part of that team to set up dental monitoring in the practices, but if I can help, I will be happy to help and help you to set up the decision trees should you need some help with that. Your main contact will be Wayan or Wana. You will receive a survey, Wayan said, and you will also be able to send an email to Wana to answer to the link you received to follow this webinar, to ask some questions. And feel very free to send me a WhatsApp.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeroen. And as Jeroen mentioned, please feel free, if you have any question, feel free to reach out to him. I know that Jeroen, when he says reach out to me if you need anything, he really means it. He's the kind of guy that is more than happy to share his knowledge and support everyone that is going through this journey. And from our side, you can send an email to me or to Rana or to the marketing team. And also we will follow up with a survey to see if you have any more questions or requests in that regard. So
my organization is, if I had to summarize this in a few words, my organization is very heavily based on the subsidiarity principle, which is, okay, may exploit as much as possible every level to protect the doctor from mental breakdown.
That is a good cause, especially if you're living in the UK. They're still not, they would have the highest suicide rate today in the world of dentistry.
Oh.
Okay, so do we have any more questions? I think I see maybe one. Yeah. Dr. Anton Demling telling you thank you very much for the inspiring presentation.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Don't hesitate if you have some questions afterwards.
Perfect. So if we don't have any more questions coming in, I think we'll end it here. So once again, Jeroen, thank you very much for your time and sharing your knowledge and expertise with other fellow users. Any last words you want to say to the audience?
Please consider that the world around us is changing. We are relying more and more on artificial intelligences. For example, when you drive your car, electric cars have now artificial intelligences to analyze what's going on the road, if it's slippery, if there is a dog crossing the road or kid or whatever, and they will brake for you. This is a major improvement of our society, of our technology. And I don't want dentistry, especially orthodontics, but dentistry in general to miss this, because this is the today's how do you say that industrial revolution. It's 3D printers and mainly artificial intelligence. And don't forget that the society is evolving, and they will ask for a better control, because our society has control on everything. I ordered something yesterday evening on Amazon. I received it 14 hours later here, and it was probably not even in my country. This is because the artificial intelligence knows that at that time probably there will be 27 people in France ordering this kind of gamer mouse, and because of this they improve the way they deliver it. The most important companies in the world, the Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft, why do they succeed that much? Because they are based on artificial intelligence, which help them to decide and to take the good decisions. Their boss don't micromanage every decision taken in this society. And Ryan, you know it better than me, but I think it's Steve Jobs who say, I don't have to employ clever people and tell them how to work, but I don't have to be clever. I have to employ clever people and ask them to tell me how to work. And this is exactly what we are doing with the monitoring. We are using an artificial intelligence which has a very much higher level of precision and reliability than we have. And the artificial intelligence says, okay, something's wrong here. This is what artificial intelligence says. This is the job of the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence will never ever tell you, is this important or not? This is your decision, doctors. This is the decision you will make with the decision trees. This is your job. Don't be overflooded with information. But the artificial intelligence is way better, actually, than me, probably than you, but I'm sure it's better than me to detect problems.
Yes, well said. We always say that AI is a way to an end and not the end result. So there's always an extra pair of eyes for you, and the power of automation, of course, as well. Perfect. So I think we'll end with this note. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone who participated in that webinar. And we will we'll be back to you soon with the survey and the follow-up. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Good
Bye-bye.
evening. Bye-bye.